Mark Chu Carroll says, I've got pretty severe social anxiety. Sure, totally understand. I love making things, but don't go to cons or anything where I can meet others. Do you have any suggestions for how to start? I would say, excellent. I would say that having social anxiety puts you in good company with a lot of makers. Further, I would say that if you would venture out to some local maker spaces and see how comfortable you may feel in those spaces, because you may find them populated by a lot of like-minded folks. But that is just one approach to dealing with social anxiety and making. The other one, you've asked how to get started in making. You love making things, but how to get started. I'm sorry. I'm not sure whether you're asking one of two questions. You're either asking how to get started going to cons, or how to get started meeting other people, or how to get started making things. So for making things, you're watching me on YouTube. YouTube is your friend. There are so many amazing channels. Honestly, about 20% of the time I'm looking for a technique. It turns out that we've already covered it here on Tested. It just wasn't a video I shot. About 25% of the time it's one of Bill Duran's videos. YouTube is absolutely your friend. And in the finding of other people who love the same things you do and getting past that social anxiety to make some connections and hopefully, I'm assuming, friendships, the internet can also be, it can also be your friend, depending on the communities that you find. Did I talk about being anonymous, talking to the couple on the cruise? So I went on a cruise recently with my wife on a princess cruise up to Alaska. It was stunning. I wore a baseball cap the entire time and thus was kind of completely invisible on the cruise ship. It was kind of amazing. And I had dinner. I'd a captain's tasting dinner. There's all sorts of special things you could do, and we did a few of them. And we did one of these tasting menus where I sat next to a couple I had not met, and they were from Milwaukee. They were from Milwaukee, and I have a lot of friends in Milwaukee and spoke glowingly about the town. They had no idea who I was, and it was a delightful conversation we had because they were asking me what I did, and oh no, we didn't even get to that. We didn't even get to talking about what we did because I said Milwaukee. I think I've been there a few times. I have friends there, and they said, when did you come? And I said, well, I think I came through there at a con. And they were like, you go to Comic Con? You go to cons like the Comic Cons? And they had, they knew about these, but they had never been. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, they got this look and they were like, do you put on the costumes? And I was like, yeah, I put on the costumes. And here I was like, just a rando who, was talking about cosplay with this lovely, I think slightly conservative couple from Wisconsin. I was talking about the transformation of putting on a costume. I was talking about how we pour our bodies into narratives that mean something to us, and that I found my people in this. And I've found many different groups of my people around the world. And boy, when I found my cosplaying people, I found such a deep locus of important people to me. And the wife of this couple said that she had felt that same thing, that at the beginning of COVID, she had taken up knitting, or she had retaken up knitting. Like she had learned as a little girl, this story I heard so many times. She had learned as a little girl, took back up knitting, and it was so soothing. She ended up making so many hats. She's like, I reached the limit of hats I could give away, and I started having to sell them at weekend fairs. And I was at this weekend church social and selling these hats, and a woman came up to me and said, would you like to come on us on a weekend knitting retreat? And she said, yes, I would. And her husband was like, what are you, crazy? You don't know these people. They're just inviting you away for a weekend. You don't know. And she said, I don't know. I think maybe I might be able to find my people here. And she said she totally found her people. And it was beautiful. Honestly, I swear, the moment I said I went to a Comic-Con, to this couple, I could tell from the look on their face that I was almost a furry in their eyes. And it was freaking delightful to just be a civilian exhorting the joys of cosplay without the weight of me being me. I don't mind that. It's not to say that I prefer one or the other. It's just, it was a new frame for me conversationally, to just have this open in the air conversation. Social anxiety is real. It took me a long time to realize I have it too. And that it makes me tense in unique ways. I have learned actually that tension shows up in my mouth often before it shows up in my brain. And that I purse my lips when I'm tense. My wife had to point it out to me. I really do think, though, that among makers, you will find a Mark True Carroll. I think you will find a gentle group of souls that you could find the space to feel safe around. I really believe that. Super Designer Matt says, I've been fascinated with the Earl Hayes Press series, and so are we. So much fun. I want to thank all the folks at Earl Hayes and Michael Corey for those. There will be more of that in the future. We like doing those. That is such rich material to play with. I love your reactions to it. It's just great. And Super Designer Matt says, if you could take any one item away from there and add it to your cave, what would it be and why? I love old high-level government ephemera. So it would be something like one of Humphrey Bogart characters' passports or something like that. That would be like a holy grail thing for me from Earl Hayes. Yeah. We didn't even get to their covering of that kind of stuff. And we didn't even really talk about how much difficulty Earl Hayes has printing things like movie money, but that will be something we talk about in the future, because when they do that kind of stuff and they replicate government documents, they often have to work hand in glove with, various agencies to make sure they're not falling afoul of the law. And the Secret Service absolutely does not care if it's in the service of a movie. They have very, very specific, rigid guidelines about what you can and can't do, and those guidelines change. They change, and you might not know that they've changed, and that's still your responsibility. It's totally fascinating. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.